Hello, everybody. My name is Anjali, and welcome to Fem Stories. We have a very special guest today in the studios. Her name is Manasa Garemella, and she is a co founder of KindLife. Welcome, Manasa.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you so
having me.
much for joining today,
Thank
and
you.
really excited to have you in the studios to learn about your story, to learn about your journey, and bring it to our viewers and learn from it, especially from how you made this whole company Kind Life, your co-founder Radhika, and all the good stuff about it. So let's just start with it. Tell us about your journey. Tell us about the your share of the challenges that you learn while you were building Kind Life, the challenges, the share of learnings that you actually gathered from working on this journey.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be here and
Thank
thank you
you.
for the opportunity. Sorry. So I run a very, very exciting platform company called KindLife, where we believe that kindness is a superpower. And essentially, what we're doing is getting the best of better for you beauty, nutrition, and wellness under one platform.
Yeah.
You can shop. We started about 2 years, a little over 2 years ago. And the idea is that how do we make it easy for you to live better? That's it. So you can shop for over 800 brands that are plant based, organic, toxin free, co conscious, cruelty free, anything that's essentially no nasty.
Nice.
And you can also join our community of over 500,000 people across platforms. So,
That's a
yeah.
huge following.
Yeah.
Tell us more about in terms of how did you find this idea? Like why cruelty-free products and where did the idea come from? What was the brainchild behind it? Tell us about the all juicy stuff that you can share with our viewers because I'm sure there are women out there. They might have all these fantastic ideas in their mind, but they might be hesitating enough to come, in the forefront. They might have the hesitations like, okay, what about the funding? What about creating, manufacturing these products? What about the marketing? What about really getting out and getting I mean, they might have better ideas. So maybe your voice that I'm trying to create and establish using this podcast series can help those women come out of their shell and create something better or something like Kind Life.
Um, I think all ideas are great ideas.
It
So let
is.
me just get that out there. We started Kind Life because after COVID, we realized when COVID was on, and both my co-founders and I, Radhika, Vidit and I, we go back a very, very long way. We've known each other for over a decade. Vidit and I used to work at Radhika's previous firm. And we realized after COVID that consumers wanted to were values driven. They wanted to buy better products. They wanted to know what is it that they're putting on their body, in their body, around their body, using around their body. And brands were selling better products and had the same set of values, but there was no platform really simplifying this. Discovering such products was tough on other platforms. There wasn't any place where you can go and get verified authentic information, and it started from there. We're born out of COVID, and we saw a massive opportunity where we realized that India's consumption economy is growing. What is it that actually driving it? So it was a mix of where we saw potential, and then that's backed by numbers.
Yeah, so you mentioned you started in 2021 end, which is
Yeah,
where
about
we were
20.
in the
Yeah.
thick of COVID. So was this a COVID baby?
100% COVID baby. We were in different cities, and I've been in the wellness space for a while. I was there before that as well, and so I was in the I've been in the wellness space for a while, and my personal journey also kind of made me move towards better products.
Yes.
I have a food allergy that was very severe that I discovered a few years ago. So I'm a label reader by
Yeah.
now for many years, and I think we are born out of COVID, but I think the
Yeah.
consumer also changed.
Yeah.
You started seeing, okay, is this cleaning thing in my house for, is it pet
Is it
safe, is
organic?
it organic, all of that.
It's a
And
new buzzword.
yeah, and I think that what we realized is it's not just about the words, but also what came with it. It's
Yes.
about helping consumers and helping young India understand that, listen, these are the options that are available, and this
Yeah.
is all that you need to know when you're shopping.
Absolutely.
So, on Kind Life, you can go and you can see what the ingredients are. We're very particular about our curation process. We ensure that the customer knows what they're getting into.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we came from COVID, post-COVID, but the potential of where India was going was also changed quite a bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a huge transformation. I mean, I have lived outside the country for more than decade, almost 16 years of my life. And when I moved back, which is I'm currently, stationed in Gurugram, as I call it, I have changed. I mean, I've seen the changes. I've seen the transformation, huge transformation. I mean, it's a running joke in my house that technically when you're living in Bangalore or Gurugram kind of a place, your day can start with that country delight milk. Your day can throughout, start with the deliveries,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
end with a Zomato or a Swiggy. So it's a huge transformation as opposed to the previous days when you used to have a milk wala coming in the morning, and the regular day you have to go out in the market. It was an old charm days. It used to have its own good and bad, but I think this is the transformed India right now, and it's going to be with all
Yeah, I
the
think
air taxis coming in from Delhi to Gurugram, which is in Mr. Gadkari's doing, working on that. So huge transformation. I would love to touch base on two things as it relates to your journey. Tell us one learning. Either it came from a challenge or a failure, but just tell us one learning that you would like to share with our viewers, that what not to do and what to do while you are on this entrepreneurial journey, and what worked for you in that space.
So I tell you, I think it's and the other day somebody was asking me what is the challenge, and I'm like, if you're a startup founder, every day
It's a
20
challenge.
times something is breaking out, like something is going wrong. So it is a constant state of, okay, now what is going to be the bigger
Yes,
challenge?
workarounds.
What is going to happen? And I think that is kind of it's agnostic to what you're building, but it's similar. It's agnostic to what you're building, but it is a trait that you need to have as a builder.
So that's a problem solving skill you're telling.
Risk appetite, and I think to know that failure is not the problem, you have to
Yeah.
bounce back.
Yes.
I think that spirit is something that is
Yes.
essential.
Yes.
And I feel like that is it doesn't matter where you are, something will go wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a slightly more
Murphy's
philosophical
law.
thing about things are not really in your control, but
Yes.
the fact is that you come back and you show up and then you fix it and then you get back, and then that cycle.
Okay.
We were while we started working on the idea right before the second wave had happened, and we were just about starting out, and when the second wave happened, it was a very, very difficult time, COVID wave, and we realized that this doesn't, and we were a very lean team.
Yeah.
And
How many of
so-
you were there?
well, a very small team at that time, just a couple of us.
Yes.
And, we realized at that time that, and we got into the second wave, and
Yeah.
we realized that it just doesn't matter what we were building. What really mattered was that everything had to be around COVID care, and as a community, what is it that we can do?
Yeah.
So we put the groundwork of the business on the back burner,
Ah.
and we got together an entire task force across India to help us with any sort of COVID relief that we could do for others.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that very early on we understood that, community and community building is not about the output is not the, you have to see a larger goal of why
Yeah.
you're doing it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I would say that, but otherwise, if you ask me a challenge, I'll say, which day do you want me to tell you?
So what I gather is basically having a high risk appetite once you're on this journey, and
Yeah.
try to an ability to fix it,
Yes.
and then bounce back quickly, and again move
Yeah.
into a positive
Yeah.
space and spin it around.
yes.
That's what you're
Yes.
learning is amazing. That's great. And what are the good things that you see is entrepreneurship? I mean, people who are actually working almost 65% in this country from 9 to 5. In fact, in this country, it's 9 to 9, which is very sad. What do you have to say to them? That's a good thing that you want to share about.
Okay, so I
entrepreneurship.
think that couple of things. I feel like when you are becoming an entrepreneur, I'll say a little bit of good and the rough part, because
Yes.
it's essential to talk about that. While
Yeah.
everybody sees what you see on social media and all, it looks really nice and
Yeah.
charming, but there is a lot of work that happens beyond that
Yes.
as well, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the tough times of entrepreneurship is probably what is, you need to have the right team, you need to have the right people around you, you need to have the right support system.
Yeah.
I'm very, very, very lucky to be having all of that.
That's great.
And I think it's also the good thing is the fact that you're actually building something,
Yeah.
and it's exciting.
That's exciting. That's a different high. Because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
dream in the morning when you get up that you're building that, you envision that, right?
yeah, and I can tell you for a fact that not all days, all time will you be feeling that way.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there'll be something that'll happen that'll just you hear from your customers, you'll hear somebody saying that, hey, I've bought this and I really had a great experience. Thanks for the
Yeah.
recommended. It could be anything.
Yeah.
But I think that the fact is that you're really it's an exciting space. So
Yeah.
and at Kind Life I take care of everything consumer, and I'm just the most, and I'm the consumer of most of the of this space as well. And it's, as a consumer, I'm very excited to be in India.
Nice.
Just the options, just the fact that there's
Yeah.
so much more that you can
There's a
choose
lot
from.
going on. There's a lot
Yeah.
exciting stuff coming up. And
Yeah.
as a consumer, you rightly said, I mean, as a consumer, it's the right time to be here. I mean, in fact, it's also in a startup world also, maybe it's already saturated by now, but I think what India is going through is what Silicon Valley was going through back in a day in maybe 2003. It's amazing. I just read the stats that we already checked in about 1 lakh crore funding just in the month of May for startups.
Yeah, but
What is your take on that? Too many startups, too many ideas?
No, I
Or
don't
is it
think
like
so. I don't
it's a
think
herd
so.
mentality here?
No,
What
I don't
is your
think
take
so.
on that?
I don't think so. I think that I don't think that it's a herd mentality concern. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like just looking at money being pumped in and valuations is probably not the
It's some paper money?
no, and it's not the reason why you should be getting into it.
Yes.
So when one is looking at it, you'll have to look at it from a different lens, and that's why I said that there will be tougher days and there will be a
Yes.
lot of that.
I'm sure they all know
so
that, yes.
one, when you come with the high risk appetite, you also need to come with the fact that it is
Yes.
an all or nothing kind of a situation many
Yeah.
times, and one should know what they are getting into. Is
Yeah.
it made for? I have friends who are very, very clear that they never want to get into either. I have a very dear friend who tells me that forget about starting my own. I don't think I'll even work at a place that's a startup because that doesn't work with his style of working.
Nice.
And I think that that's great because if you put him in a startup, it's not going to bring out the best in him, and it might not obviously bring out the best in at the company as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is something that maybe people should also be talking about. That
Yeah.
is it something that you really truly want to do, and what is
Yeah.
it that you're building, and then
Yeah,
everything
I
works
think the
around it.
numbers and the periphery of it should not be the reason to get to the startup
Exactly.
phase. The reason of doing something exciting is because you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
Because you really want to build something and you know what you're doing. Because many people just get into it by the sake of it or for the sake of it, but then they half the time or halfway they realize this is not for me. So basically, you haven't done enough homework, enough research. That are you in it for yourself? Are you a person that actually sustain the journey?
Yeah.
So it's important.
And I also think that one of the earlier questions you had asked is that what should people do and how should they start, etc. I feel
Yeah.
like, and about ideas, and I think that unless you get into the pool, you don't know how deep the water is.
Yeah.
Not pool, but a water body.
Yeah,
Basically, unless you get,
We
please
know
check
the
how
pool.
deep the pool is before
We
you
know
get
the
it.
pool is deeper and at what junctions.
Yeah, exactly.
But I understand what you're
but
saying.
you should know the
Yeah.
you don't, and the thing is that that's also the exciting part,
Yeah.
because you change and pivot and
Yeah.
work and rework and
True.
fix and move
Yeah.
fast, all of that. But
And the exciting part is for few people, it is good. The whole journey
Exactly.
for few people like me, they call it Yeda in Bombay. For people who are, the bent of mind is needed. The right bent of mind is needed. But for few who are fixated, who are really like 9 to 5, it might not be the juggle they were looking for.
yeah, and I think that's also fine.
Yes,
I
that's fine.
just want to put this out in as many words as possible. It's
That's
also
true.
fine because
That's totally okay. Yeah.
That's also okay.
Yeah.
I think I think that's fine.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll delve into a little more deeper. The idea for the Fem Stories is based on 3 main pillars, like I always say in every episode. One is creating and establishing that voice for all the women entrepreneurs and the female leaders out there and people who are actually looking for becoming one like Manasa here. The second is creating the impactful stories, the storytelling part, which I'm personally very excited about. So I think not many of us think about it on an everyday basis, but I will take this opportunity as part of this platform because as a mother, I would like to ask how many of us actually sit down with our daughters and think and talk with them that your first investment will not be an ornament. It will not be a jewelry, but rather a house for yourself that is only for you, or rather a fund for you to make something, make out of your dream, maybe a company, or maybe something that is just for you and not for your dowry or for anything else. Just think about it. Like, how many of us really do that? And I'm not saying everybody, like in Gurugram or Bangalore, like places, maybe that's a first world country, in terms of, as RBI governor said, but rest of the India right now, maybe they do think about the dowry. They do think about, buying an investment like an ornament for their daughters. What do you think, Manasa?
So I think the answer is a bit deeper than that. I
Yes.
think a patriarchal setup impacts you irrespective of where you are and
There you go.
whether you are in a big city, small city, and across all economic social stratas.
Yeah.
And I think that the way it manifests changes, but the fact is that it impacts. And if you, I think it's if you are if you are privileged enough to take decisions, and if you are privileged enough to be able to make those decisions, then you should do. Then you should use that power, and you should be. And I think as women, we're um, never enough.
Yes.
So it's really like the it's really like the Barbie monologue. No, you're too much of this, and I feel that I feel you're anyway not enough. And what comes with the privilege and what comes with that is also financial independence. You have the ability to move out of spaces that are not fueling you, move out of setups that are not fueling you, and then what do you
Yeah.
make of that?
Yeah.
And in the larger scheme of things, yeah. And do you think that this is something that just because you are going to be financially independent, are you not going to deal with that? That's not the case. Systematically, it's just been designed that way. Will all of it disappear in one generation? Also no.
Yes.
But what is it that you can do with your own means?
Yeah.
And given the opportunities that you have,
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a problem of, if you're of a certain from a certain city, not from a certain
Yeah.
city. I don't see that. I just
It's
think
a
that
mindset.
no, and I feel like
Yeah.
it's so deep rooted for so many years.
Yeah. But then
hundreds of
for
years.
how long it will stay deep rooted? There has to be an equal opportunity. When the women are coming out and they're creating multi-million-dollar companies, why are their feet still grounded to get to the ornament, to get to be in a certain way? Why is that?
Okay, so while we create multi-million dollar companies, dig a little deeper in terms of if you're running an organization, right?
Yeah.
Um, how are you going to make it easy for the women in your company to work and to grow?
Yeah.
That's an answer you need to have. So
Yeah.
I'll take one step below that. If you have working moms, how flexible are you going to be when it comes to hours?
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
How flexible are you going to be for a mom to work from home and come back here? How flexible is your organizational structure going to be where there's a creche that the mom can come in? And this is all just still the onus is on the women, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How have you made it easier for the primary caretaker to not be the women?
Yeah.
But will all of that be answered and solved in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But having said that, how do you make these changes in the ways that you can
Yeah. Yeah.
and the paths that you can impact? I
Yeah,
think that's the
absolutely.
thing.
I think that's, you hit it right on the, out of the core, because this is the time we need to bring that change, and also the cerebral opportunities, having the equal opportunity on the table. So I will actually share one more thing on that note. In my previous episode, we had two co-founders as well. We had one of the founders and CEOs of the companies, and we were discussing the similar questions in terms of why women are not able to bring that voice on the table. And, one of the guests mentioned that they hesitate. Women hesitate. They just do not execute it. They don't have that voice on the table yet. So if you go deeper, right? I mean, I was looking into the news. The very famous reporter said that not even in just India, but outside India also, the news consumption, 80% of the news consumption is done by the males. Now that brings me an awakening or a question that why are women not watching news? Are they not interested in elections? Are they not interested in politics, wars,
How
or
will they watch the
daily
news?
affairs?
How will they watch the news when the burden of when it's prime time TV
Yeah.
has dinner time and she's expected to cook and be in the kitchen?
Thank
I
you.
mean,
No,
I'm
thank
just
you.
saying that.
No, but thank you. I'm not talking about India, but outside India also.
No, no, no. I mean it
In
across.
fact, in India, it is actually ironically speaking, because outside India, I have lived in outside in the place and outside India, you have to be responsible for everything. I mean, you can have a cleaning lady, but you have to cook for your kids and parents and your spouse. But in India, you can have 10 servants to do that.
No, that's a point of privilege, and I think that that's
Yeah.
something not everybody can. One must
One
acknowledge that.
servant can be easily afforded, and even if you can't, 9 o'clock is the prime time for the news. I think if you really want to, if you really, I
No.
think that is the reason people are not taking these women seriously, or the businesses are not taking seriously, because there is a lack of this context in their conversation, which is what I think, and which
Sure.
is what the statistics also mention. But what is your take on it?
I do not. I would. I would like
Disagree.
to disagree very, very politely.
Yeah, let's agree to
Yeah,
disagree,
yeah, we can
because
agree to disagree.
we can
because
agree to
I think
disagree,
that
because
even
that is
now,
the whole idea of this
yeah,
podcast.
I think even now the onus of not doing it, and you're not. It is not like my mom chose to be a homemaker and has spent her entire life pouring into other people, including for her husband and kids were her life,
Nice.
and
Which is
I've
actually a very
seen.
big thing.
Yeah,
I don't
but
see
I
down
don't.
upon this. This is a
No, it's
huge.
not about a big thing or not.
Yeah.
But I do think that I do. You have to call out when it is TV and everyone there are guests at home, and
Yeah.
mum and the ladies get up and do all the running around, and the men are just sitting and saying, "Oh, this should really change in the country, and this should happen, and all of that." Right, and somebody needs to call it out, because that's not. And I think that's
Let's do that today.
yeah. No, but I don't think that's what I'm trying to tell you. That I don't think that changes with like this is what I mean. Does it initiate a conversation somewhere?
Yes, yes.
But systematically at a large scale, does that change? No, right? I think one of the big conversations is also about financial independence, because financial independence removes you from the pressures and shackles of having to be somebody's plus one, right? And what that does is that if I want to move out of my home, I can do that right now and move out of anything that is not fueling me.
Yeah.
So, but is that a privilege that is there with everyone? No. I 100% acknowledge the fact that I come from, privilege and a place where my parents gave me the support system to do what I wanted to do, etc. But I don't think that that's a case that, and that's what I said, that it's not a rich or not kind of a thing. It's across the board, the way it manifests changes. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
But I think it's high time that we not put the onus on the women to even bring about the change that they are impacted by. That's the only thing.
Yeah, no, but I think getting back to the same point, just for example, imagine you're in the living room, you have two men sitting right there on the table, and you and I, like, just sitting on the table. We have a 9 o'clock primetime news, and there's dinner already cooked. The matter is, maybe let's just say, just making it up while I'm talking, and the question is to serve the dinner maybe in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. The man says to women, can we have dinner? Women has prerogative, also has a voice to say, I want to watch the news.
No, I don't think it was.
And let me complete.
Yeah.
I want to watch the news politely and firmly. Can we just watch the news? And then, let's just serve the dinner together, and then let's just have dinner together. It can be as simple as that. As opposed to, yes, get up. Sacrifice that moment for you. Yes, go to the kitchen. Aren't we training the men to be the way they are?
No.
Okay.
That I also want to add that the onus on this guilt of we are not training. Why should I have to train? I've been impacted by this. Why is the thing about training also on me? Why? I am in the. It is. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's a systemic thing of how the setup is. Now to tell me that no, the onus of telling the other person is also on you.
It's
First,
not the
it also
onus.
starts
It's just
off-
you be yourself. You get that thing. You be that change.
Where do you? Okay,
You
so
don't.
let's take a step
You don't
back.
say the baton is the change. You be that change. You want to watch the news. Period. You don't want to go because the next week also you will be called to go at the same time. I want to watch the prime show. Today is the election day. I really want to show it. Even if it's repeat for 24 times, I want to watch it right now. And we can wait for 15 minutes for the dinner. So just an example, a very small example of how things can change very softly and within our own household. And that's just my 2 cents. I could be completely off the table.
No, we can agree to disagree, because that's really not that's not how I look at it. I think
Okay.
it's I think that's we can definitely agree to disagree, because
Okay.
that's not how I look at it. I don't
Yes.
think that I think it's not as easy as
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
not
going to
easy at
get
all.
in and I'm going to watch TV. I also don't think that that's the power that you need to give women is, or the opportunities that you need to give women is far deeper than just allowing them to be able, or like for them to be watching TV. I think
Yeah.
it's far deeper.
Yeah.
I also don't think that it is on them to be telling the men not to. Like, I don't think that's.
So then how do you think we can pave the change or pave the way, which is the third pillar of my podcast series?
Yeah.
What do you think in Manasa's life, based on what you have done so far in your life, what do you think will make a change?
I think the change will come when you give women the opportunity that they deserve, and you give them the means to enable that opportunity. You can talk about seat at the table, you can talk about all of that, but if you're not giving them the means that make it easy, no change is going to come. Okay. So if you don't make, so financial independence is a great is a strong example, right? Financial independence gives you a means to be taking a lot of those decisions.
Yeah. Of course.
And
That's the primary of it.
Yeah,
You have to
exactly.
have a job. There is no point getting to a guy or getting to anything next step until my daughter is financially independent. I
But
don't think that's going to happen.
I also think that for me to get a job doesn't end at me getting a job. It
Yeah.
is me at a workplace that enables me to grow,
Values you.
that values me and gives me the opportunity to live the life that I can live.
Absolutely.
If I have responsibility at home, what are you going to do to make that easy for me?
True.
That's what I mean by means to be actually helping you feel that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think it's
valid, very valid point.
It's what happens once you enter the workforce, right? After that, how can you move up the ladder? How can you move? And this is not from an entrepreneur, non-entrepreneur, right? It's a woman who's working, right?
Yeah.
How do you give them? How do you create a space for them in all aspects that allow them to shine the way that they want to shine?
Yes.
I think that is how. That is how.
So creating that opportunity, creating that workplace which is conducive to create more opportunities for women, allowing them to get more promotions, getting more opportunities across the organization is where you think the change will
Promotion
come.
is one of them. I
Yeah.
think something as simple as just the policies that you have for how easy is it for mothers to come back to work?
Maternal
How
leave.
much do you pay them, and how equal or unequal? I mean, that's a
I know the pay
no-brainer.
parities,
The no-brainer.
the menopausal, the postpartum, the maternities, all these key areas, the key life cycles of women needs to be respectful, needs to be respected, and then giving them their own due and time to actually work with these options. And I think in India, all of this is being worked upon as we speak. I mean, there are so many companies already honoring these things, which is amazing. And I think it's bringing the change we are talking about here. So Manasa, I'm actually wearing this hat today, which is constantly downloading these messages in terms of how does women or the ladies or the girls needs to be raised as opposed to boys, and then eventually these girls becomes one of us, and that seed is there. That seed is there. So I don't know why I'm wearing that hat today. So that brings me to this the overall thought in terms of ownership of the properties. How do we raise our girls? Have we ever discussed with the men in our house or with our friends that or even to a girl, like, who does your taxes? And have you done any investment or bought any share without asking a male member of your family? Or, in terms of an investment property that, which you liked, not asking any male member. So again, I'm zeroing into a very specific space in terms of how your support system can make you make you that person or a woman that can actually make these individual decisions and change the overall narrative of today's women. I'm not saying we're all not doing it, but how many of us actually do that when that moment of truth comes?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you had a support system. So I would like to delve deeper on that as a touch base on what I mentioned, and I could be wrong again because we are having a real nice conversations today, talking about the societal pressures, talking about the upbringing of our girls, and talking about the support systems,
Yeah.
and of course your change bringing tactics. So over to you.
Definitely guilty of not being as independent when it comes to a lot of the monetary decisions. I still rely a lot on my parents and my brother quite a bit,
See.
sounding board. It is true, and I'm guilty of that. Definitely, it's a work in progress. It's important that I can see that it should have started a lot sooner, etc. So I
Yeah.
do see that. But from a larger support system, I mean, I'm a younger daughter and a fairly rebellious kid growing up. The one
Spoiled
jo
brat.
not spoiled, more than that, it was ये तो सुनती
More
नहीं
pampered.
है.
Tomboy.
Yeah, like no, I was not the one who listens, but I feel like that's an easy tag that you get if you don't follow everything by the paths and ये तो सुनती नहीं है. But I did what I wanted to do all my life, and my parents, I grew up in my parents are very by the book in the sense of my father has had a PhD, has been in the service and now has his own setup, but he's been in the job world all his life. My mother did her master's in economics and chose to be a homemaker. And I grew up in a very typical South Indian house where everything was just be careful, don't, risk appetites were not as high. It was like, you got the job, just take it. I came back after my master's right in the middle of recession, and my parents were like, just take the job. Just don't worry. Just
be safe.
Be safe.
Yes,
A lot of the
yes.
safety net
Financially
came.
safety.
Yeah, financial safety. Otherwise,
And
as well.
the overall societal pressure to be in the job and,
Yeah, 100%.
coming up on the ladder.
Everything was, just put your head down and work. Put your head down and work.
And you were like, no.
No, I don't think so. I think it was when I started, I feel that there was a lot of the unlearning that I have to do now. But I also see that some of the unlearning is what
I love that.
some of the things that they also need to do, because, and then you call it out and it's always like, she doesn't listen. But I see that they're also, there is some of everything around them, right? So what was told to them is right. So
The norms of society.
The norms of society. So when I come and tell them, but I don't need it, and they're like, okay. Now they're like, okay, fine. Now she's going to manage. I have an older brother who I'm very, very close to. He's, again, did everything by the book and then became, he was an entrepreneur for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, it's, if you grew up in a fairly traditional setup of from, in my case, in a South Indian family, everything was just be careful. Everything is default, just be careful. Just be careful. And my parents were the kinds who, when there are the really large things in life that have happened to us, the tough times, etc., they have been extremely calm. But extremely, and they've allowed me, and I say allowed because I see that as a challenge that many parents can face. My parents have let me make mistakes. And every time I have made mistakes, every single time a large mistake has happened, I have made, my parents have not given me a hard time. They have stood there and they have said, okay, now what? You're going to learn. And I think that kind of just made me, I don't get scared that easily,
Yeah.
But when it comes to the small things, they're always hyper. They're always worried. It's always the small things. And I'm like, how are you guys like this? And
I won't ask the small and big thing, but I do understand this, that
I think
they have supported you when you needed them the most.
Yeah, I mean, I've come back. I've been at times, there have been times when, kids are scared to tell their parents that something didn't work out.
Yes.
I don't have that fear because I know for a fact that if something goes wrong, knock on wood, if something goes wrong, my parents will, it's not like I'll not get reprimanded, but they will be, at that particular moment, they have the wisdom to not give me a hard time about it.
Very good.
It's a conversation we'll have later.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that really stayed with me. And I
Yeah.
think the fearlessness of it's like a very it's two-edged sword, right? Because one side was like, just be careful, and then there's, okay, now what? It's fine.
It's a catch-22.
It's a catch-22. I was 21 when I left the country to do my master's, and I called my grandmother, who was just the strong force in my life, as this woman that I would really look up to. And she was married very young. My grandfather was a scientist. She traveled around the world and around the country with him, and she was like this lioness.
Nice.
And I called her when I was getting on a flight, and I said, Nani, I'm getting very scared to go. And I'm getting very scared. And she said, why? And I said, I don't know. I'm not. I'm just, and she was the only call I had made where I even said that for my parents, it was like, oh, I'm leaving the country. I'm so excited.
Was it a nervous wreck for a usual kid to
Yeah,
go?
I was just like, I'd never lived away from home for that
Yeah.
long, etc. And she told me something. She said, you have a tongue, you can scream. You have eyes, you can see. You have ears, you can listen.
Yeah.
And you have money. So in case something goes wrong, you'll be sorted.
Take care of
So
yourself.
what are you worried about?
Yeah.
And this was a lady who didn't speak fluent English and was just the most worldly wise person. And I feel like
Nice.
things like this kind of stayed with me.
Amazing.
And I stayed out of
That's
the house.
quite a solid support system.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have that kind of support system, you don't need anything else.
Yeah, I have a brother who's was an entrepreneur for many, many years.
There you
Saw
go.
very tough times as well. And he's been my sounding board ever since I was a kid. And if you are a younger sibling, you also see the not so great side of being the younger sibling, where you get bullied left, right, and center. But I think he's been a sane voice in my head, and for a lot of things. So I think that but having said that, there are still the same set of challenges. There are battles you have to pick,
Yeah.
fights that you have to every morning, some that last longer,
Yeah.
some that change your core.
Yeah.
And I think as children, you can also tell parents that they also have the option, because they did everything by the book. They find it hard to see that there is a
Yeah.
possibility.
And the parenting is changed. It has evolved as well. I mean, our set of generations, the parenting and the previous set of parents, there's a whole lot of difference. When I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
becoming a new mother, my mom came in, my mother-in-law came in, they all flew into California, and they saw what we were doing. We were all doing by Googling, we were asking our friends, and very different experiences as opposed to what they did back then. They used to share with us as well. So yeah, I think we're evolving. Every 5 minutes, we are a new person.
Yeah, no, my dad, and this is my favorite anecdote since the last few years, but a year and a half ago, we were at a family gathering, and somebody asked my dad about whether I'm getting married or not, but it was in a setup that it was the gentleman is an uncle, also my dad's friend, and my father and I, and he looked at my father and me and said, is there any good news? Asking if I'm going to get married. And my father looked around and said, yeah, there's great news. She's started a company and it's doing really well.
Amazing.
And I was like, what? That was not the case in my 20s. That was not the case. The battles in my 20s are worth this.
So there's a huge transformation in the
there is
mindset.
a change.
Yeah.
There is a change, but it came at the price of the nights of shutting the door and all of that. And then after the gentleman left, my father like, yeah, but please just do it now. Like, I was like, dude.
What was that?
What was that? But no, I think it's an unlearning process
Yeah.
for them, and
Yeah.
you have to call some things out
Yeah.
that they don't see.
Amazing. No, I'm glad we touched based on so many nuances today as part of bringing up, as part of how we bring up women and girls in India, and then we become successful leaders like yourself. So thanks for sharing all that experience. I would still work on pivot a little bit based on women entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I would rather, touch base and delve a little goodness from your experience and share with our viewers in terms of how do we empower the women entrepreneurs. I mean, there are so many entrepreneurs or females are already there. They're working hard every single day. They're actually there. They have the ideas. They have funding, perhaps. They have everything that they can do to create this beautiful dream of their own. But then there is still some, maybe inspiration, some aspiration, or some sort of voice needed. What do you have to say to them in their journey of entrepreneurship?
I think the best part about being a woman, and there's this I love being a woman, but I think that the best part is that the bond of sisterhood is extremely strong, and community of women looking out for each other is very
Yeah.
strong. For me, finding leaders who were women early on in my career, one of them being Radhika, made a huge impact
Difference.
into how I saw my potential as well. You
Hmm.
know, and it really, like, there was instances where I felt that, wow, like, you see women as, and unfortunately now the conversations also changed, but when I was younger, it was a very unidimensional way of showing women in pop culture, etc.
Yeah.
Either you're the sad mother, or you are the working girl who's not married and just has, or no, doesn't have kids and only focused about career, and then you have all these vices, or you have somebody who's this. It's so unidimensional that we
True.
forget that women are humans.
Enterprising
And
too.
yeah, and this perfection kind of thing is not really, it's just but for me, I think that made a lot of difference, to find a mentor who is
That's a very good advice.
women. And I think that the reason I'm saying this is for a lot of female entrepreneurs or people who are in the field. um, Doors, chats are always open, DMs are always open.
How cool is that?
And please reach out. There are a lot of communities. LinkedIn is, I think, a great way to just
Yeah.
professionally get into, just write to somebody saying, I need 15 minutes of your time.
Exactly.
And
And in India, I think especially in Instagram and LinkedIn is like a huge platform.
yeah,
In the
correct.
West, people have just one or two posts on Instagram, but in India, oh my God, they have full businesses
Yeah,
flaring up
yes.
on
And I
Instagram.
think
Likewise on LinkedIn, if you don't share it there, you don't exist.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that there are a lot of
Yeah.
women communities. There are groups you can join.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And what I tell myself every day is, don't listen to the voice that's saying you can't do it,
Yes.
or it's not going to work out, because yeah, then what? Yeah, it's not going to work out, and then what? Like,
Yeah. It's not going to work out, then what?
Then what?
You have to make it
so
work.
it'll work. Yeah,
Make it
so
happen.
the chances of it not happening is just as high as chances of it happening. So I want to get into work thinking it will happen.
Yes.
There's no reason for it to not happen.
Absolutely.
And output is anyway not in your control.
Yes.
So I think, coming back to your question, I think it would be to reach out to as many women.
Yes.
They help you, and this is across levels. Everyone has been really kind to give me their time every time that I have.
Yeah.
But you have to be the person to pick up the hand.
Yes. You
and
have
if-
to ask.
You have to ask,
You have
and
to
if you're
ask.
in a safe space where you feel like you can do that, please
Yeah.
start with that. Maybe
Yes.
that's an easier thing.
Yes.
But yeah, I would say
So absolutely wonderful, right on point. Like one word is sisterhood. She said that. One word, if you summarize what she said, is find that person who can actually help you. Like she found Radhika, right?
yeah, and every day I think the most amazing part is my WhatsApp group with my female friends, with my girlfriends, where I'm just like, how's it gonna happen? They're like, yeah, it's gonna happen. Yeah.
See, that's the support you need to find, even if you're on this journey. And the grit. The grit is another word
Yeah, I
that you
think
have to.
Grit
Yeah.
is the most. I mean, just show up
And ask.
and ask, and
Yeah.
and please, like, just be kind. That's it.
Be kind. Absolutely.
Just be kind to yourself, and
Yes.
nobody's got to figure it. Everyone's learning.
Everybody's learning on every
Everyone's
day.
learning.
Imagine,
That's
yes. And then I have one last question
Sure.
to you, Manasa. I love your name, by the way. You have to tell me, what does it mean?
Sure.
Manasa is
A consciousness. It's also a name of it's a root of a goddess.
okay.
And my mom named me because my father named my brother, and my mom wanted to name him. So when it came to my chance, my mother's like, that's not going to happen. We don't happen. You named her. So my brother and I have interesting names.
I
But
love
no.
you narrate that story. That's not gonna happen.
No, she was, but you did this.
This is my turn.
Yeah, my turn. Yeah.
All right. So now let's turn to you as a leader and just,
Yeah.
what is your leadership advice for aspiring women entrepreneurs? Like the previous question was, there are already entrepreneuring journey, but then, how to empower them. But this is more like people who are not and they really want to, they're aspiring ones. What is your advice to them?
Advice to them is to be leaders the way that they want to be.
Yeah.
or-
How do you inspire them? What kind of networking groups, like you mentioned, if there's any specific you want to share with them, and what kind of, advice do you have for them?
So there are a lot of networking groups / groups that you can join. Ladies Who Lead is a great example. And I think it's across. I think that the better way to do it would be to see the industries that you're in.
Yeah.
And,
Find a niche.
Find a niche in the industry and see whether you have groups like that. A lot of our My fellow entrepreneurs are part of Lead Club as well. And I think that across the board, there are a lot of groups that one can join. And again, you want to see where you're going to be learning what.
Yeah.
So maybe um, that's a space that you want to
Yeah.
take.
Also, I feel, again, taking a step back here, finding a group is okay. But maybe after, do you think finding a group is enough, or just maybe getting to know yourself first is important? Finding yourself is also important. I mean, getting into a group, doing all that good stuff is amazing. But at some point, when you are getting into an entrepreneurship journey, you really need to understand who you are, what your muscle, what your core is,
Yeah.
before you get into that world of sleepless nights, funding, ideas, website, marketing, because that's a lot. Before that, you really need to understand the core of who you are. So I think, I mean, I applaud what you mentioned, but I think I also feel that when you are aspiring women entrepreneurship, you really need to understand whether you are a fit for that or not. And for that, what you need to do is to really listen. You need to really educate yourself. Education comes really important at that point in time. And educating yourself, like who you are, getting to know yourself. I think you touched base on this in the beginning of our podcast, which is what I actually really feel that probably from my perspective, that it's really important for people to understand where they come from. Do they have it in you? You know?
Yeah, I think sometimes you don't see it because you're so close to it. You love your kid too much. And so two things, right? The groups are great to interact with other people who are and to find mentors.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Second is that if you're talking to somebody who's built out something, right? They give you a perspective that you don't end up seeing.
True.
So I feel that, and we started with all ideas are great ideas, because I feel that, but now if you're making the idea into business, what do you need? How, the A, B, C building blocks, whether you have it, what's right, what's wrong, all of that is something that helps that you find somebody who's done it and gives you that perspective, because you are so close to it, you don't end up looking at it rationally.
Yeah.
And I think the third thing is that play to your strengths. If you know that this is something that you're good at, then you're great. I mean, you're sorted. But if there is something that you need work on, how do you make that easy for you? Would that
Educating
be,
yourself.
Yeah, and also would it be getting somebody who's an expert?
Yes.
Finding a
Learning.
co-founder who's going to be better at that. Finding a leader who's can. So those are blocks that one has to look at it when they're building a business, right? I bring this to the table, and then for the business, if three things are important, then who else can help me with two and three?
Yes.
Is that something I can grow into?
Yeah.
Or learn?
Yes.
Or is it something that I can get somebody on board to help me with?
Yes.
So I think that, and obviously perspective, as I said.
Yeah. And finding a co-founder is a great idea, but it also comes with a lot of trust.
Yes.
And a lot of avenues. I mean, your idea being worked with a co-founder, your execution, you can be lucky to get a great co-founder and things can just fly off. But there are stories that where you get a co-founder and the next thing you're actually working on the patent because your idea is out. Or there are other stuff that happens as well in terms of getting someone on board, with your idea, shared with them. So what is your take on it in terms of trust building? Again, all these wonderful advices for aspiring women entrepreneurs, and especially women entrepreneurs, because they'll be on this journey eventually. If there's too much for them, they'll find people, they'll find the partners. But what is your take on it in terms of hiring a co-founder?
So in our case, it was a little different because
you had 10 years of stories,
10 years of knowing each other.
And
Vidit and I have worked with Radhika.
Yeah.
And we've known each other for over a decade.
But not everybody is that lucky.
Yes.
And good.
But I also, I know that finding the right co-founders also gives you a very strong, I think it gives you, your core is strong. And that's how I feel.
It's
I feel
huge.
I'm everything because I can survive and do this because I have two amazing people who are constantly my people I can talk to about everything, right? Good, bad, ugly. I have an idea. Is this great? Is this not great? I literally message in the middle of the night. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Kind of a thing.
Nice.
But it's also a great place for somebody to show a mirror to you, saying, no, what you're saying doesn't make sense. You should do etc. So I think for me, it's a bit. I come with that bias of having people that I mean, working with people that I know.
Yes.
But to answer your question, what I meant is you don't need to get a partner as a co-founder, but you can get it if there is a skill that you don't have. Can you hire the right talent that
Yeah.
can help you with that?
Yeah.
Can you hire a right senior leader who can help you with that?
Yeah.
Right. Suppose finances, and I'm giving this as just an example. If
Yeah.
finance is not your strong suit, and what are you going to do
Yeah.
because that's critical for the business.
Yeah.
So if you keep the business in the center of things
Yeah.
and say that this is something I'm not good at,
Yeah.
I will work on my strengths. But
Yeah.
for this, can I hire somebody
Somebody.
in whatever form it is,
Yeah.
and however that relationship
Yeah.
might be? That's something that one should consider.
Absolutely. So hire the talent that you don't have skills for, or you don't have time for, or you want to build a team which is more
Exactly.
stronger.
Exactly.
And that's actually an amazing advice as well. I think with that, we have discussed a stretch of imagination, a lot of breadth and length of what we should be discussing, and we should be sharing with our women leaders out there and people who are aspiring to be women leaders. I really want to thank Manasa today to
Thank you
to
for
be
having
here
me.
and sharing her journey, anecdotes, and her experience and story with us. I think I wish all the very best to
Thank you.
KindLife with
you.
miles and miles and years. And I really appreciate and thanks again for your
Thank you.
visit.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I love talking to women anyway, and this
Yes.
feels like, we can just pick up from. This is the beauty of two women in a room
Yes,
or
absolutely.
at a table that you can just pick up and just
Absolutely.
chat.
And all of you, please
Share
go to
experience.
KindLife and leverage all the products, buy all the green products. And you want to talk about that?
Yeah, head to kindlife.in and follow us on our socials. And this is pretty much my standard talk kind to me. That's who we are. And keep it kind always.
Thank you so much. Thank you again. And
Thank you.
thanks,
Thank you for
Manasa.
having me.
Thank you.